do not start with the grammar. I've been learning foreign languages and exchanging Russian language with foreigners for years now. And one thing I've learned for sure is that if you want to learn and apply new language quick, and it doesn't really matter Russian or any other language, you've got to start with vocabulary and then switch to grammar and try to understand it as well. And foreign comrades agree with me.
And the number one tip for learning Russian that will save you months, years of wasted effort. The Russian grammar is the biggest pain in the arse for a Russian language learner than anything else. It's a nightmare. You've got this case system where you need to know these things like the genitive case, the locative case, the accusative case. Man, it's a nightmare. And it put me off learning Russian for many years, and it stunted my progress completely. So my tip and how I made great progress was just deciding, that's it. I am not going to learn the grammar. I'm just going to learn vocabulary.
And other experienced comrades as well. A bit of an insider information. As a native Russian speaker and a perfectionist, I dedicated lots of time to learning Russian grammar, thinking that it was possible. Over 11 years, continuous studying Russian. So I remembered that one time, after learning grillion hours on the grammar specifically. There was one time I was in late night in auditorium preparing for the university exam that, for the record, it was different from the tests that we all pass now. We used to have a thing called dictant, which is essentially a badass literature difficult text of 2-3 pages long, and there was a person who would read it to you, and you had to write it as they read, and you had to make no mistakes and hear everything, be up with the time and write it down correctly. If you would try to look right and left, you're out of the exam. If you're too slow to understand, okay, they repeat once. If you're still slow, okay, you're out. It was a bit tougher than what you guys have now, when Russians do have now as just tests. So I remember studying, there was a rule that we were learning, and the rule was it was an advanced Russian, and it was about commas. And in Russian, we do love long sentences. So commas are very important. Punctuation in general is very important in Russian language. It was something about when there are 3-4 adjectives following one by one, how do you know if to separate them with commas or not? So usually the general rule I learned in school was, yes, you separate them with the rule if they're adjectives and they describe the same thing. And then in that rule, which was advanced for the university exam, that same rule had changed, and it said that if those adjectives were of the same subject that was characterized by as a noun, and it had to follow those adjectives, and then they characterize it in some kind of way, and author meant it as a description of that subject, something. So then you put no commas, and if you would, that would have been a mistake. So I remember clearly, I even remember the rule, man, after so many years. I remember at that point, given all that effort and really believing in that I can learn Russian grammar, I realized that's just a trap. Russian grammar, to the extent that it is a tool of torture and humiliation. Kidding, but still, it's difficult grammar, and when you go deeper, genuinely believing that it makes sense, you might come up to the point where it doesn't make sense. Do I really need it in life? No, you don't. At the same time, if you start with grammar, what usually happens is that you might get discouraged for the whole thing before you even got the taste of it, before you even started to understand or enjoy it, So it really makes not much sense of starting your learning the language with the grammar. I believe the same guy who created those grammar rules, advanced Russian grammar rules, I think he is the same person as an author of English courses in schools in my time, and even now. The education process was you just learn the rules by heart, you repeat them, and then you compound some sentences, and then you pronounce them with a horrible Russian accent. For example, my name is Masha, I'm from Russia. Or London is a capital of Great Britain, with exactly this pronunciation, because the teachers we had, they also didn't know how to pronounce it correctly. So if any of you have Russian-speaking, Russian-born and raised friends, you do know what I'm talking about. So I created this channel with two purposes. First is for you to learn Russian and to be able to apply it quick and easy. And second, to show you Russian mentality, traditions, all kind of cultural stuff that will help you to understand the mentality and thus context of the language, which I think is essential to learning new language. We'll be covering a range of topics, including how to learn something, pronounce, write, everyday phrases, best compilations of TV series, music, entertainment, some popular subjects, except for politics. I tend to keep this channel free of politics, by all means. Russia and US, and how we're actually not against each other, however, how we do cooperate throughout generations, and how there are many Russian-born citizens, businessmen who've done very well for themselves in US and actually now is an integral part of US culture, and you might have no idea about it. However, Russia now, geography, traditions, things we are up to, things from the past like 90s, historical context that explains the stuff that you might be wondering now, why Russians don't smile, for example. I used to hear a lot of these questions from my friends, why Russians don't smile, why are you so serious, and these kind, and is it dangerous to live in Russia, how did you survive in Moscow? And you have to explain. Brilliant times, you realize that people don't really have the perspective of reality, not for their fault. It's normal, like Russians, we don't know the perspective of US and your daily routines and the stuff that how you roll. We basically get an idea from movies, which is not quite right, especially when you show Russians in movies. Now I think it's a bit better, and I think my fellow comrades will agree with me. However, when it was 90s, again, it was awful. The way you would show Russians and our like men, women, and the culture, it would have been like it's a disaster. It's like, do you have an idea about what you're talking about? And so it's very stereotypical. So that thing we're gonna have to cancel, guys. We're gonna have to come to reality here. Last but not least is travel. As soon as I travel somewhere, or even in Moscow, when I go around, I'll make some videos, some clips to show you how things are now and how everything works. Having said that, I don't mean that you shouldn't study grammar at all. What I'm saying, it's best to start new language, to start to learn new language by learning vocabulary and starting to apply it to life. And then when you see patterns, when you wonder about the constructions, then check the rules that might explain you the constructions, because it's a very complicated, I would say, language, but it's totally learnable. Absolutely. Let me know what topics you would like to hear about, to get to know, to get to see, and I'll see if I can cover them as well in this channel. And thank you for your attention, and see you in the next video, hopefully. Don't forget to after having recorded that, I realized I've made some grammar mistakes in English. Please ignore them. Or don't. Haters are welcome as well. Let's see.